Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here on kind of an odd day, the last day of the month, the first day of the week. And hope you had a good weekend. If you want to follow along this morning, we're going to be in the seventh chapter of Acts as Stephen continues his words, continues his message, his defense, if you will. And I'm going to read the whole thing. We're looking at verses 9 through 16 today. I hope you'll take a moment and read over them yourself, or at least maybe if you're able, not driving down the road, but if you're able, maybe scan over them as you listen today, and you'll kind of be able to follow along. Stephen's going to mention here. He goes back and list the kind of the who's who in Jewish history: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all those, and then the 12 patriarchs, the 12 sons here, who we all know the story of. They then sold their brother Joseph into slavery. We read in the previous verse that they did that out of slavery. But verse 9 says, but God was still with him. That God still took care of him, rescued him out of his affliction, gave him favor with Pharaoh. And then in verse 10 through 15, he says then that God used Joseph to rescue his family from the famine, to save their life. And this is a theme throughout Stephen's sermon. Again, he's being chastised, being challenged for preaching about Jesus and talking about Christ. They don't like that, but Stephen is pointing out to them that they have a history in their nation all the way back to the founding of their nation, all the way back to the 12 patriarchs, the 12 who the tribes of Israel came from, going all the way back to them. He says you have a history of rejecting God's chosen. You've done it before. Don't seem surprised when I tell you rejected Jesus Christ, the Son of God, because you have been known for rejecting the one that God chosen. And even though you rejected him, God still favored him. God still took after him, took care of him. Even though his brothers rejected him, persecuted him, sold him into slavery, God still took care of him. And he says that's the very same way that you have what you have done with Jesus. You have rejected God's chosen. You have rejected the one that God had chosen and set aside, his chosen son, his only son, and yet God still favored him. God still loved him. Was with him even through the death, burial, resurrection, and now he has ascended and sitting at the right hand of the Father. And so again, you have that characteristic. Joseph is a picture of Christ, chosen by the Father, rejected by his own family, and yet still forgave all who did evil to him. Again, perfect picture of Christ. Christ chosen by the Father, rejected by his own, but yet forgave those who had done evil. And another thing in this passage, it just reminds us of the danger of jealousy, of envy. It was present in Joseph's day. It was present in Jesus' day. That was a lot of what drove the Pharisees to reject Christ. They were jealous of the attention he was getting. Still a problem. Many murders, many crimes committed on behalf of jealousy. And what Peter is reminding, what Simon, Peter, I'll get the right person in this story in a minute. What Stephen is reminding them of is, again, that God will have his way. That God's plan cannot be stopped. That God's design cannot be, you cannot stop the plan of God. You may sell him into slavery. You may put him on a cross. But God will have his victory. Great lesson for us today. we need to be. There's a, maybe you've heard this saying before. Who's on the Lord's side? Because His side will be victorious. Good reminder for us today as we go out in this world. We're put in a situation many times of having to choose whose side we're going to be on. We're going to stand up for the Lord or go along with the world. Let's choose the Lord's side because Stephen says no matter what happens, sell them into slavery, put them on the cross, God's plan always comes out on top. Have a good day, and I'll see you here tomorrow morning.